So I'm here with Steve Moss and John Greenwood from the UCL Institute of Ophthalmology, with who I've been working for a few years now in relation to their technology for neovascular eye disease and cancer, among other things. It's great to have you guys. It's been great working with you guys, and it'd be kind of interesting to know from your perspective. How do you think the idea for the company that we're working on together arose in your minds? When was it born? And can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where we are today?
So,
do you want to start, John?
I mean, this started off, quite a long time ago, as these things often do, with a substantial grant that was very much sort of discovery based. So trying to look at a problem in the eye at the time called macular telangiectasia, which was thought to be a vascular problem. And that led us through, a 5-year research project that identified a novel therapeutic target. And it was from that we then started thinking that this may well be quite an important target in various diseases, not only in the eye, but as you say, in cancer. And so it was halfway through this journey that we suddenly realized that, we needed to think about commercialization and understanding what's needed for that. Steve, I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It very much started off as a basic research project. Our backgrounds are both in basic science and have been for many years. And so we embarked on this without the expectation that it would end up where it has. But it's been in some ways, a sort of classical example of translational research. You make an initial discovery, you test a whole lot of theories and ideas about the molecule you've discovered, and then as we kept going, John and I had many discussions where we'd say, well, that's another box ticked, and eventually it becomes crystal clear that what you've got is something that has to go down that translational route and eventually be commercialized. And
what drove it down that translational route? What was the point at which you kind of thought, right, we've got something that we think is actually a product that we'd like to use?
I think it was at the point at which, when we developed very early on the initial sort of blocking antibody, which at that time was not as it is now, sophisticated as it is now, but it was at the point where we were testing it in various models of disease and finding it had quite a profound effect, and suddenly realizing that actually what we had here, if we could produce a biologic that was suitable for human use, that this may well be an interesting therapy. So at that point, we then sort of started engaging with from initially sort of UCLB and then through to the Tech Fund to start exploring that, because clearly, we were very naive at the beginning as to what the process was.
Indeed. And so why did you decide to start working with the Tech Fund?
Well, that came a little later, I suppose. I mean, I think there were a couple of things that worked in our favor in terms of the timing of all of this, which one was that at the point, as John mentioned, we had discovered that this antibody blocking effect, the MRC had set up the biomedical catalyst scheme. And through the DPFS funding scheme, we therefore have access to a tailor-made source of funding. And at the same time, UCL had set up the Translational Research Office, the TRO, which was a real innovation among universities. I think UCL was the first to set up anything like this. And the TRO was terrifically helpful and supportive in helping us put together that initial successful application to the MRC. So initially, our interactions with UCL Business, this was prior to the Tech Fund, had been in the filing of patent applications and getting all of that side of things sorted out, which they dealt with very effectively and competently. But yeah, so the Tech Fund came a little bit later and was extremely useful in filling in sort of funding gaps. It's typical in a project of this type, I think, that you suddenly find that there's a couple of key experiments you couldn't get finished on the last grant, and you need those bits of data to feed through to the next stage of the process. And so through, I think the Translational Research Office, UCLB and the Tech Fund have all been really supportive actually in providing those chunks of money we've needed, to keep someone in the lab for an extra 6 months and so on and so forth, and help sort of, plug those little gaps that you need to plug as you go along the translational path.
And I guess that commercial kind of the degree to which it becomes a commercial opportunity kind of increases as you go down that path.
And yeah, absolutely. And I think what's important to note is that, you know, with the Tech Fund, it brought with it sort of the skill sets that we clearly didn't have. And I think even to be honest, you know, I think UCL itself didn't necessarily have that initially. And you know, the full bandwidth of support, and which is clearly much improved now. But that gave us the skills and the expertise that enabled us to be directed in the right way to move this into a commercial product rather than just a research research activity.
And on that front, like personally, what do you think your own strengths are in terms of that translational process, and also weaknesses? And I guess how do you think that's changed over that period of time that you're talking about?
I think it's good that we work in a team.
I think it's great.
I think it's been really helpful, and we're neither of us are individuals who are very protective over what we do. I think we are quite open to the idea of being told that this is a better way, and so long as we agree, you know, moving down that route if the experts sort of advise. So I think we are team players, and I think that has helped. And clearly all the people that we've dealt with on the Tech Fund have also been sort of team players, and has made it actually not just, you know, work very well, but actually an incredibly pleasant experience.
It's been a lot of fun.
It has.
So I mean, that said, you know, if you could go back, you know, back in time 5 years, you know, what do you think, you know, even given what we've been working on the last, you know, 3-4 years, if you put yourself today, like 5 years ago, what would you have done differently that you know, compared to what you think now?
Earlier and faster.
I think that's a difficult question to answer, Simon, because actually everything has gone, in my view at least, you know, pretty well since, you know, with the route that we've taken. But I am aware that in developing antibody technologies, that there are other things we could have done. There are, you know, I think significantly more sophisticated algorithms that can be applied to antibody design that can make FC domains less immunogenic and all sorts of things. And you know, we didn't have the skills and expertise or even the knowledge back then when we embarked on this to make use of all of that. So I think in terms of developing a therapeutic antibody, which is what we've done, there are things we, you know, with hindsight, we could have done a little differently and maybe done a little better.
Yeah, I think the technology has definitely moved on in and of itself over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
In that regard. Slightly controversial question. In your opinion, what makes a good investor in academic projects?
For me, I think, as I sort of alluded to, it's being able to have trust and faith in the people that you're working with, and actually recognize their skills and take advice and act on it. But I think, you know, the most important thing there is trust. And I think both Steve and I have immense trust in the Tech Fund team. Yeah,
I think also seeing in an investor a genuine interest in the science that we've done. You know, it's not just simply. I mean, obviously we need the funding that comes with an enthusiastic investor, but actually to go beyond the funding and see the enthusiasm for the science, and also a desire to understand the science. And certainly in the case of our project, the science is immensely complex, you know, underlying what we're trying to do. And it's been great working with an investment team that has that degree of interest and who really want to get into, you know, understanding fully what we're working with.
I think it's immensely important. I mean, ultimately, this is, you know, projects like these are going to fall over on science, and you know, in the area that we work in, we're only ever going to know that it works once we show that it's safe and effective in people. And if we fail to show it's safe and effective in people, it's going to be because of the science and something that we didn't de-risk properly something that we didn't think about. And I think it's just, I think it's immensely important to get, you know, to get deep into it, and then, you know, reduces the chances of messing up. Clearly, there's got to be a balance, you know, in the long run in terms of efficiency. But I guess, you know, on that note, what do you think that we could have done better as an investor?
I think the pause says it all.
Yeah.
I suppose because we found you to be so proactive and collaborative has been immensely helpful for us, and actually, you know, being patient with our learning curve. I suppose the only thing that I would say is that probably yourself and other individuals are so stretched that the team we could have had a bigger team, so that we maintain that momentum, which on occasions can sort of feel that it's just dropping off slightly, simply because of overload.
That's the nature of being a small fund. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what we face. But hopefully onwards and upwards.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
very much appreciate.
It's the only thing that came to my mind also, Simon, is that, you know, and it's not really a complaint, it's more an observation that, you know, if we could have had more of your time, we would have welcomed it. But, you know, as you say, it's in the nature of the business that...
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But UCL is a very, very big place.
It is.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Brilliant. Thanks very much for your time.